So I want to finish this group on environments in LaTeX by talking about how to make your environments disappear as if they weren't there. And also what all this means for best practice typography. So let's share the screen again and have a look at this notion of disappearing environments. There's this marvelous package in LaTeX called the versions package, and that empowers us to selectively include or exclude specific environments that we specify. So one example, which I use all the time for typesetting assignments and exams, is we do want to typeset an assignment with its solutions, and we want the questions and solutions to be typeset for teachers, but for students, we want just the questions, and the same for exam. And for logical consistency, we want the source code of the questions and the solution to be together. We don't want the question in one file and the solution in another file, because that way lies anarchy. And I've seen it and it's horrible. So don't do that. Keep them together, and the version package is what empowers us to do that. So for example, just include use package versions in your preamble, and then you might say exclude version solution or include version solution. And in your document, surround the solutions by begin solution, end solution. Then if you've got the exclude version in your source code, in your preamble, whatever's between begin solution and end solution will just be ignored by LaTeX. Won't get typeset, just disappear. If you change that exclude version to include version, then the material will be typeset. And so you can get two versions generated from the one source, and all is marvelous. Another use of this is when you're developing a collaborative document, especially over long time spans, especially with collaborators. You can put in comments to each other. You can put in notes and reasons for why things have been done this way, or alternatives that you've visited and discarded. And you put them in a special environment or two or three. And so for your draft documents, they can be typeset. When you finalised your document, you just say exclude, and you know that none of that material is going to appear in your final document. And yet it's still there in the source for you to read if needed. It's very useful. Okay, so let's summarise what we've talked about in this group. We've talked about environments, and the one I've described are among the most common ones that you will use for all sorts of documents. And the reasons for using these environments is because they map the logic in your source into a physical appearance which is based upon hundreds of years of printers' experience, distilled out by North and Lamport via LaTeX, because they went to printers and found out how to typeset stuff. And then a few decades ago, a lot of this printer's wisdom was subject to experimental test by an Australian, Colin Wheeldon. And he essentially reinforced that LaTeX default, coming from the printer's experience, is indeed the best way to typeset documents for a reader's understanding. Right? Note, it may be different to what you like, and that's right. You have to accept that what you like does no longer really matter. When you're writing for a reader, it's what's on average best for a reader. And we can look at that. There's Wendy Priestley here summarised a lot of the findings by Colin Wheeldon and others. And if you go to that link, you go to this article that's freely available, click there, and you will download this article. And I'll just highlight a few points in it. Firstly, this is research on instructional typographies. So it's addressing specifically educational material, but generality, it addresses any document where you want the reader to comprehend what you've written. If you don't want them to comprehend, then you do the complete opposite to what the recommendations are here. Right. So that may account for why a lot of commercial documents do not follow these principles, because they don't really want you to understand what they've written. Yeah, fine print, that sort of thing. Okay, but what have they written? Wendy Priestley looks at the issues of layout, typefaces, emphasis, alignment, and colour. Page layout research findings. The best research is based on experiment with hundreds of subjects in assigned, a document type set one way or another way by a random allocation. Some of these findings are not that strong. Okay, and page layout is one of them. So their recommendation is generally you should typeset a document with the main body text in something like this and a secondary column over here for other stuff, and that's good. Now, you can typeset documents like that in LaTeX, and using the ref art document class. And let's do it onto A4 paper. Right, so instead of article, instead of book, instead of report, well, instead of article, use ref art. And you can, let's have a look at the result. The result is, as Wendy Priestley sort of argues, basically 2 columns with the bulk of the document in the right-hand column and a wider margin for extra info, which I haven't got anything filled in, but that's basically it. Header is automatic. The headings are indented into the extra information. This makes it easier to navigate, and so on. So this best practice is easy to do. What about the colour? It's typeset in black and white. That's the default. And surely it would be more beautiful if it was coloured blue. Surely it would be more attractive to a reader to have nice blue text. Selected navy blue, maybe. Well, interesting thing about that is Colin did experiments. Document typeset in black and white, document in blue and white. Asked the readers, which one would you rather read? 80% of them said the blue. They thought it was really attractive. However, when you got them to read the document, set a comprehension test on the content of the document, that's up here. What did he find? He found that 7 out of 10 could reasonably comprehend the text. Yeah. Those who read the visually more attractive coloured text, only 1 out of 10 displayed similarly good comprehension. So the level of the comprehension just plummeted as soon as they used colour, even if it was the most innocuous, attractive colour, blue. So, any colour as long as it's black. Now, what else? What about the typeface styles? And in particular, whether we should use a serif or sans serif font. Well, you know LaTeX by default uses a serif font. So we zoom in. This means all the letters have got sort of little feet at the bottom, like that and that. Right, little curly bits at the bottom. These serifs undeniably help a reader comprehend what the material is. And this dates back 100 years at least to the British Medical Council, and Colin Wheeldon tested it, typeset a document in serif font and in sans serif font, which is so endemic now because various commercial companies push sans serif font. But for comprehension, sans serif font found that 12% of the people comprehended the document, of readers. Whereas if it was in serifs, the comprehension was 67%. Yeah. Most people could comprehend it if it was in serif, which is the default for LaTeX. So if you want your stuff to be comprehended, use serifs, use the default in LaTeX. What about capitals? Just don't use them. You know, all capitals is a legacy of typewriters when that was all you could do. So I think Wheeldon did some study of the legibility of headings, headline styles. It wasn't comprehension, so it's not as rigorous. Nonetheless, it was on readability, and he's ranked them here from 1 to 17, typeset things in a variety of font styles, and got people to say how easy it was to read, and the easiest ones are at the top, being rated 92, and the worst ones at the bottom, rated 56, whatever those numbers mean. And the thing you notice about this is that the top half, it's all lowercase headlines, right? Headlines, section headers, titles, use lowercase. The bottom half, the least legible, is, with one exception, capitals. So do not use capitals at all, anywhere, except possibly 3-letter acronyms. What about bolding for emphasis? People sometimes do that. You can read it here, bolding. Yeah, here's the results from Wheeldon. Document in bold, document in ordinary font. Give it to people, give them a comprehension test. The document which is in bold had 30% good comprehension. The document that was ordinary had 70% good comprehension. So the bolding destroys comprehension. So don't use bold for emphasis, use it for navigation, and so on. Don't underline, reverse time, or out. I'll leave you to read them all. Yay. So the upshot is, use these environments because Knuth, Lamport and LaTeX know how to typeset them. Even if you don't like the result, right? Your readers will comprehend it better.